Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Brad McMillan, Chief Investment Officer of Commonwealth Financial Network, for a look into key themes and expectations he'll be watching for 2021. Brad, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thanks for having me, Jill. Great to be here.
And Brad, in December 2019, when we were discussing 2020 projections, I don't think anyone predicted it would play out the way it did with COVID-19 impacting global markets, economies, and who we are as a society. Has that changed your process at all when you look ahead to 2021?
It's changed my process in the sense that there's a lot more uncertainty here. But in a sense, what it's just given us is it's given us a do-over. And I think you're seeing that in the market analysis. Analysts are looking at it and saying, okay, 2020 is over, good riddance. We're looking at 2021. That's really what 2020 should have been. So it's the same process. It's just kind of scaled forward a year with an appreciation that maybe we don't know as much as we thought we did a year ago.
And equities had a solid November on the back of positive COVID-19 vaccination news. We got the overhang of the election out of the way, but the potential for medical news impacting the economy is still there, with cases skyrocketing daily. It could take months for a vaccine to get through the population. What's your outlook for economic growth with that backdrop?
I think we're going to continue to see growth. I think we're going to see slower growth in the first half of the year because you're quite right. Vaccines are going to take a while to really roll out to the population as a whole. But then we're going to see a catch up. And just as an example of how that might happen, look at all the excess savings out there. People are dying to do something with that money as soon as they can, safely. There's a lot of vacations that weren't taking. There's a lot of restaurant meals that weren't eaten. I think once we get to a place where people feel safe, and that's probably about mid-year, you're going to see people saying, okay, now I can catch up a little bit. And we're going to see that in the economy as well.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I, for one, can't travel, but think about what the workforce is going to look like in the back half of 2021. I mean, no one went away this year, so they're definitely want to take advantage of it. So it'll be interesting to see how productivity plays out in some sectors. Do you expect more market volatility with the Georgia election and transition of power in play over the next couple of months?
I think at this point, the market has largely internalized what could happen. There was real uncertainty, would there be real turmoil around the election? That hasn't happened. We've now got it resolved. So I think a certain amount of back and forth is priced in. So no, I'm not real worried about that. The one exception might be if we got two Democrats from Georgia. That might result in a little bit of volatility as people process what that would mean from a policy perspective. But there again, with Senator Manchin, I don't see 50-50 as allowing significant policy changes. So I'm not too worried about that either.
And Brad, finally, what sectors in the market or areas of the economy are you most constructive on for 2021?
I think you want to play on continued growth. I look at housing. Housing is doing very well. I don't see that changing. I think to a large extent, this has maybe influenced how millennials think about housing. I don't think the suburban play, the single family play, is over by any means. And then I look at financials. You're going to see the interest rates normalize as we start to return to normal. You're going to see financials be able to get back off the floor. Finally, if you're willing to take some risk, I think energy, we've seen it come back recently. And I think if you look at Exxon, for example, recently, energy companies are really starting to get a grip on what the new world means. Don't write these companies off. They're very smart people. They're just going through a difficult transition. And maybe they're starting to come out of that. So that might be an opportunity too.
All right, Brad, appreciate the insight as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.